Time management fails when it ignores the boundary constraint logic. Tasks expand to fill the time available. Give yourself all day. You'll take all day. The system is simple. Narrow your field of view to widen your results. Apply this constraint framework to stop your work expanding into your personal life. Before each work session, define one limit. 30 minutes. No research allowed. One output only. That boundary forces your brain to prioritize and decide faster. You transform from slow perfectionist into high-speed executor. You eliminate infinite task syndrome and finish work in half the time without sacrificing quality. But constraints only work when you apply them at the right moment. Most people think they need better task lists. The real problem is invisible. It's the gap between what your body can deliver and what your calendar demands. You schedule deep work at 2 in the afternoon because that slot is open. You block off Thursday morning for analysis because your meetings fit better elsewhere. You treat every hour like it has the same horsepower. It doesn't. Your brain operates on circadian rhythms that rise and fall throughout the day. And when you ignore that curve, you're scheduling failure before you even start. Energy, not time, is the actual constraint in knowledge work. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else, but your cognitive bandwidth shifts hour by hour. What felt sharp at 9 in the morning turns sluggish by 3. What drained you before lunch might feel manageable after a reset. Your brain doesn't run at the same speed all day, and your calendar needs to reflect that, or you're fighting biology every time you sit down to focus. Scheduling high-focus work during your natural low-energy windows creates friction that feels like procrastination, but is actually biological mismatch. You open the document, you stare at it, you check email, refresh a tab, grab coffee. That resistance isn't laziness. It's your system telling you it doesn't have the bandwidth you're asking for. You're trying to sprint uphill when your body is built to coast. Working against your energy curve costs you double the mental bandwidth because you're forcing output during a period designed for recovery or maintenance. Here's the system that fixes it. Track your perceived energy hourly over 5 to 7 days. Use a simple scale. High, medium, low. Set a recurring alert on your phone. When it goes off, rate how sharp or drained you feel in that moment. Don't rely on memory. Capture it live. After a week, you'll see reproducible patterns in your cognitive rhythm. Maybe you peak between 9 and 11. Maybe you crash after lunch and recover around 4. Maybe your best work happens late in the evening. The specifics don't matter. What matters is that the pattern repeats. Once you map your energy, match your task types to your states. High energy periods are for analytical thinking and strategy, writing, problem solving, deep work that moves the needle. Medium energy windows fit coordination and collaborative sessions. Low energy slots work for administrative tasks and inbox management. When you align task difficulty with available bandwidth, the work flows instead of fighting you. Think of it like protecting the ROI of your sharpest hours. When you schedule hard tasks during high energy windows, you're maximizing the return on your most valuable cognitive resource. When you force deep work into a low energy slot, you're burning premium bandwidth on discount output and wondering why everything takes twice as long. The common mistake is treating all hours as equal when planning your day. You look at your calendar and see 8 open hours. You assume you can fill them with 8 hours of productive work. You can't. Those hours have different energy profiles, and if you stack cognitively demanding tasks back to back without accounting for your natural rhythm, you guarantee you'll fight yourself on the hardest work. When you map your energy correctly, you stop forcing deep work during dead zones and start leveraging your natural peaks. You protect your high energy windows for the tasks that move the needle. You use your medium states for collaboration and communication. You save low energy periods for work that doesn't require sharp thinking. That alignment cuts mental friction in half and builds cognitive sustainability because you're no longer asking your brain to perform at a level it can't sustain. Tracking your energy levels for 5 to 7 days reveals your cognitive rhythm and lets you align high-value tasks with peak performance windows. You stop wasting your sharpest hours on email. You stop scheduling analysis when your brain is running on fumes. You build a calendar that works with your biology instead of against it. Knowing when to work solves half the problem. But even when you schedule correctly, there's still a gap between the effort you put in and the progress you can actually see. You finish a full day of work and can't name 3 things you actually completed. That gap between effort and visible output drains your motivation faster than any deadline. Traditional to-do lists focus on intentions, not results. They show what you planned, not what you delivered. You write down 8 tasks in the morning. You work all day. You check off 3, maybe 4 if the day went well. The rest roll over to tomorrow. Every evening, you're staring at a list that tells you what didn't happen. That creates a constant sense of falling short, even when you put in the hours. Planning bias makes us consistently overestimate what we can finish in a day. You look at your list and think, you can knock out all of it. You can't. Your brain doesn't account for interruptions, energy dips, or the fact that tasks take longer than you predict. So every evening feels like failure, even when you worked hard. The list measures intentions against reality, and intentions always lose. Here's the fix. Flip your to-do list upside down. Instead of writing what you'll do, log what you actually complete throughout the day. Open a blank document or notes app. As you finish tasks, write them down in real time. Drafted the email, completed the analysis, scheduled the meeting, fixed the bug. Even small wins go on the list. This is the reverse to-do list method, and it shifts your focus from planning to tracking. Recording completed actions creates visible proof of progress. Each entry is a small win that triggers reward psychology in your brain. You see the list grow as the day moves forward. That visibility reinforces momentum through reinforcement loops and counters the perception of stagnation common in knowledge work. Instead of ending the day with a record of what you missed, you end with a record of what you delivered. Your brain needs feedback to stay motivated, like a scoreboard in a game. The scoreboard doesn't show what you hoped to score. It shows what you actually scored. That signal tells you whether your effort is working. Without visible wins, you lose that signal. You work hard but can't see the output, so your brain starts to question whether the effort matters. Motivation drops. The next task feels harder to start. When you can't see your progress, anxiety builds. Your confidence in your own productivity erodes. You start to wonder if you're capable of getting things done. That doubt makes it harder to start the next task because you're already convinced it won't go well. The invisible progress problem compounds into a motivation problem and eventually into a performance problem. This single shift from planning to logging turns your daily output into a transparent record. You prove to yourself that you're moving forward, even on chaotic days. The list doesn't lie. It shows exactly what happened, not what you hoped would happen. That honesty sustains motivation because it removes the gap between expectation and reality. Seeing completed actions builds self-efficacy, the belief that your effort produces results. Flipping your to-do list upside down and tracking completions instead of intentions gives you a visible narrative of productivity. You stop measuring yourself against inflated plans. You start measuring yourself against actual output. That shift cuts anxiety because you're no longer failing to meet unrealistic standards. You're just recording what you did. The list becomes proof of progress instead of proof of failure. Making lists and organizing your workspace can feel productive, but they don't replace actual execution. Planning is useful up to a point. Beyond that point, it's procrastination dressed up as preparation. Here's the metric that exposes the difference. If your planning takes longer than the actual execution, you're practicing avoidance, not productivity. The reverse to-do list forces you to focus on execution because the only thing that goes on the list is completed work. You can't fake it. You either did the task or you didn't. Now you know when to work and how to track real progress. But there's still one bottleneck left. Open-ended tasks stretch into infinity when you don't define the boundaries up front. The constraint box method solves this by forcing you to define one hard limit before you start. Set a 45-minute timer. Disable your internet connection. Cap your output at 300 words. Limit brainstorming to one page. Use only one software tool for the entire session. Require yourself to produce one specific deliverable before you stand up. Pick one constraint and lock it in before you begin. This approach is rooted in creative constraint theory, which shows that artificial limitations accelerate decision-making and enhance output by forcing prioritization. When you know you only have 45 minutes, you can't afford to spend 20 of them on research that doesn't matter. You cut straight to the core of the task. You make faster decisions because delay costs you the ability to finish. The constraint removes the luxury of hesitation and pushes you to prioritize essential ideas over perfectionism. Without boundaries, your brain defaults to slow, perfectionist mode. You research endlessly because there's no signal telling you when enough is enough. You refine the same paragraph 5 times because you have room to second-guess yourself. You delay decisions because there's no forcing function that says the window is closing. Open time creates permission to drift, and drift kills execution speed. Unlimited time doesn't improve quality. It just invites scope creep, overthinking, and the paralysis of infinite options. When you can spend all day on a project, you will. Your brain expands the work to match the available runway. What could be a tight, focused deliverable turns into an endless cycle of tweaking and reconsidering. The infinite task syndrome is a direct result of too much runway. You think more time means better output. It doesn't. It means slower output with diminishing returns on each additional hour you invest. Constraints reduce decision fatigue by narrowing your available options. Instead of evaluating 20 possible approaches, you evaluate 3 because the boundary won't allow more. That reduction in choice accelerates decision speed and increases output because your brain isn't burning bandwidth on options that don't matter. You focus on what fits within the constraint and ignore everything else. The limitation becomes a filter that separates high-value actions from low-value distractions. Think of how a diamond forms. Pressure creates clarity. When you squeeze the available time, your focus sharpens. You stop wasting productive minutes on low-value refinements because the clock won't let you. The constraint eliminates the leak. You go from wandering through a task to executing it with precision because the boundary tells you what matters and what doesn't. Open-ended tasks feel safe but trap you in preparation mode. You keep researching because you're not sure you have enough information. You keep editing because there's no clear signal that says this draft is done. You stay in the planning phase because moving to execution feels premature when you have unlimited time. Constraints push you into action. They create natural finish lines that prevent drift. The timer runs out, the word limit hits, the session ends. That boundary forces closure and moves you to the next task instead of letting you circle the same work indefinitely. This method turns vague afternoons into high-intensity sprints. You ship faster because the constraint won't let you slow down. You decide clearer because delay means failure. You stop second-guessing every detail because the boundary tells you when good enough is actually good enough. The quality doesn't drop. The speed increases. That's the leverage point most people miss. They think more time equals better work. It doesn't. Tighter constraints equal faster execution without sacrificing the output that matters. Shrinking the runway is the only way to force your brain to make faster, higher-stakes decisions that lead to professional success. The 45-minute rule and single constraint sessions force your brain to prioritize essentials over perfection. You double your execution speed without sacrificing real quality because the constraint separates what moves the project forward from what just fills time. You stop polishing work that's already done. You stop researching topics that don't change the outcome. You focus on the core deliverable and you ship it. For more videos on time management, don't forget to subscribe for the next one.